This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Hsu, and the TSO's marketing director Felicia Canny. We're talking today about a concert that is happening this weekend at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. It's at 8 o'clock p.m., and that is entitled Rachmaninoff's Third. The centerpiece of the program is the famous Rach 3, or the Third Piano Concerto of Sergei Rachmaninoff, featuring the wonderful pianist Olga Kern. You can find more information about this at toledosymphony.com or call up the box office at 419-246-8000. So we have a little bit of time to talk about Rachmaninoff. We are waiting right now for composer Jennifer Higdon to call into the program today because her music is also on the program. But let's turn our attention right now to Olga Kern, who is the pianist bringing Rachmaninoff to the Peristyle. Olga Kern is somebody who has been here before, right?
She has been here before, but I should clarify, she's not actually bringing Rachmaninoff to the Peristyle. It would be very difficult.
Right.
Strike one.
Wow.
And we're off to a good start.
It's all right. If you get to 3, that's when we kick you out of the room.
So she's bringing the music of Rachmaninoff to the Peristyle, along with the Toledo Symphony.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just an outstanding pianist. She won the Van Cliburn, I want to say, maybe 20 years ago.
2001,
I think.
The
2001.
first time it was 2 gold medalists were awarded. And I challenge anybody to name the other one because Olga has gone on to have just an amazing career as a concert pianist.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think she was the first woman in 30 years to win that competition.
Yeah, it wasn't since
Dominated
the
by men.
60s, I think. Christina Ortiz was the other winner back in the day. The Van Cliburn competition, of course, started by Van Cliburn, who himself won the very first Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow back in 1958, I want to say, something like that. And his competition was started shortly after that. Somebody came and said, I've got a bunch of money. Let's make a competition here in Texas, and we'll put your name on it, and you can run it. And the rest is history, as they say. So that was Olga Kern's sort of launching pad for her career, especially here in the States, because it raised her visibility so much. What is it about the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto that you think gives it this reputation of the most difficult piano concerto in the repertoire? It's like the Olympics, Do
you remember the movie Shine that came out in the mid-90s? So Jeffrey Rush played David Helfgott, who was a music student who was trying to tame the Rach 3 and kind of went mad in the process. That's an extreme, but
we're hoping that nothing like that happens on stage.
There are all these things about the Rach 3 that are said. It has more notes per measure than any other piano concerto. The runs are longer and more technically complicated than anything else Rachmaninoff wrote, or probably any other composer for that matter. I mean, Rachmaninoff loved to show off. He had enormous hands, hands like twice the size of my hands, so he could do so much. And that's created these great showpieces that are not only technically very challenging, but also extremely melodic and just gushing with this sort of late romantic sensibility.
Well, he wrote the concerto in the early 1900s, and he brought it to America. I mean, it debuted in New York, I want to say, and it was his first American tour, so he obviously wanted to impress people.
And there are great stories about him practicing the piece on an ocean liner coming across the Atlantic. And he had a silent piano rigged up in his stateroom so that he could continue playing and practicing this because it was just that fresh and that challenging. He didn't want to miss anything. So you can imagine all of these notes and the sound of just a dummy piano where you just basically hear the sound of the keys hitting
the
not strings,
clacking of the keyboard, whatever.
Just this amazing. It would be like the typewriter concerto, but it's always been one of my favorite pieces. And Rachmaninoff wrote 4 piano concertos in the Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, and everybody loves the Rhapsody. Everybody loves the second piano concerto, but this one has always occupied a top spot in my heart.
Yeah, I would love to have heard just a recording of Rachmaninoff playing the silent piano.
Absolutely, right.
Well, there are recordings of him playing all
Probably
of his
sounds a lot
concerti.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he did leave behind a lot of recordings of his stuff. I mean, he
Right.
obviously wrote a lot of this piano music for himself to perform, and this was certainly the case with the Rock 3. This is also a piece that he basically was the only person who would take it on for years.
Until Horowitz.
Yeah.
Horowitz was captivated by it as well, and it was a concert, I think, in London, and Rachmaninoff happened to be in the audience and saw Horowitz perform it beautifully and went backstage and said, okay, it's yours now. And so
Nice. Pass the torch.
Yeah, and that is a great recording that you can get to.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading Olga Kern's bio, and she had mentioned in there that she's like the descendant of Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky, and I was like, wow, royalty.
Well, these Russians,
Perfect to approach.
right?
To employ
Wait. How are you the descendant of Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky?
I don't. It was online, so it must be
Has to be
true.
happening.
Maybe the musical descendant.
I think it's
somehow.
maybe
Yeah.
very distant relatives, but
Yeah.
she really does occupy that great romantic pianist sound, and I love listening to her. There's a wonderful recording of her in recital at Carnegie Hall, where she does Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Sonata, which is another great piece. And there's just such a spirit of joy, and she was born to play this Russian repertoire, so
Yeah.
I think she'll just be fantastic.
Well, she specializes in the Rachmaninoff and the Tchaikovsky works as well. I mean, there's an interesting connection that we can point out between Rock 3 and Olga Kern by way of Van Cliburn, because Van Cliburn, that was one of the pieces that he played when he won that first Tchaikovsky competition.
It was
he played
the Tchaik one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, though, because those are two really difficult piano concertos. I mean, I would say a lot more pianists will play Tchaikovsky as compared to Rachmaninoff, but the Tchaikovsky is no walk in the park either, right? So to specialize in that repertoire, I think, takes a certain caliber of pianist.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting about the Rachmaninoff Third is even though it has that late romantic feel, I mean, you said it was written in the early part of the 20th century, which is totally true, but that's still like 10 years after Rite of Spring.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the music almost was nostalgic the moment it was written. So it's already looking back where there's something just that really makes it so much greater than just a virtuoso showpiece, because it's kind of in the service of that nostalgia. And I think that people feel that emotional depth as well. It's not just the flurry of notes.
And you hear in the final movement of the Rachmaninoff, like kind of a tease of the main melody that everyone loves at the end, and it keeps coming back, and then it finally hits at the very end, like a wave rush over you. And it's like, spectacular. There's actually a recording of Olga Kern playing this at I think the Van Cliburn, somewhere on YouTube maybe.
I think so.
And at the end, she's just like exhausted from playing everything, because it is a very daunting work.
Well, it's one thing to listen to a recording of it, and another thing completely to watch the poor pianists out there sweating their way through.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you just stumbled on this, or maybe you said it intentionally, but you stumbled on it for me. There is always a sense of captive danger whenever the Rock 3 is performed. And maybe that's why it's so exhilarating and why it endures so much in concert halls.
Danger.
Because you're always convinced that it
Someone will
could
mess up?
fall off.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like a figure skater. I've said this before. Anyone? Figure skater taking a jump?
That's
Yeah.
not
It's scary.
Rachmaninoff.
Exactly. No, but it definitely has this point. And there's so many points where the orchestra and the piano have to line up, especially at the very end of the third movement. But it's outstanding when it comes together, and I am such a
So
goosebump.
come see this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said before, it's like the Olympics. It's like waiting for that quadruple axel. You know?
Yes.
Only this piece is full of them. Oh, there's the phone. I'm going to predict this is Jennifer Higdon on the phone with
Correct.
us.
Just another Wednesday.
Well, let's bring her in. Hello there.
Hey, Brad.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Very well. I'm here with Merwin Sue from Toledo Symphony. Merwin is second violin, principal, and artistic administrator. I also have Zach Vassar here, who is the president and CEO of the Toledo
Jennifer.
Symphony.
Hi. How are you all doing this morning?
We're doing great.
Very well. Also, Felicia Canny is here. She's the director of marketing. So
Hello.
Hello.
thanks so much for calling in and joining us. We have been talking about one of the other pieces on the program that features your music, the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3. Olga Kern is playing that. But
Yeah.
there's also, of course, your concerto for orchestra. Just,
So exciting.
Small, tiny little work.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Are you in Philadelphia right now, or where are you?
I am in Philadelphia. I'm
Okay.
finishing an opera, which will probably be done today.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
This is a
Yeah.
historic moment.
It is. It truly is.
Don't let us
You
get in the
sound
way.
very happy.
You can go back to that if you want.
Yeah. You can compose and talk with us at the same time,
Can you
right?
Yeah,
tease the opera or
exactly.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah, the opera it's a big undertaking. So when you're finishing it, it feels like a load is coming off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is this your first opera?
No,
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 my
second.
Second opera.
Yeah.
Second opera.
Indeed, my second. Yeah,
Wow.
and it's very different than the first was a grand opera based on Charles Fraser's novel Cold Mountain.
Oh, of course.
This one's a chamber opera, 5 singers, 12 instruments, and 70 minutes. So completely different from the first one.
Yeah. But was this one easier for you, or did it come more quickly?
It actually, I didn't have a steep learning curve, but this particular piece has a lot of extended techniques in the instrument, so it was trickier to figure out the notation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been working on it probably about 18, 19 months now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I hope they're paying you for your time.
they are. Since I make my living from writing, I'm fortunate that people actually step up and say, we would like a piece and we'll pay you to do it. That way I can pay my mortgage.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I thought that, on the podcast broadcast series that we do here, we try to take a little bit of a lighter approach
Right.
to music, and I thought it might be kind of fun if, for listeners to get to know you a little bit better, is if we did a quick little quiz about you.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
yeah, so you probably shouldn't answer. Let somebody else. Let somebody else answer.
She'll get
Oh, this is really
100%.
funny though.
Yeah.
What if Jennifer did not get all the answers right?
She
Well,
should
no.
That's
play.
actually possible.
Well, we did have Lowell Lieberman on one time, and we did a Find the Lieberman quiz where he had to choose which of 3 pieces of music was written by him.
Uh-huh.
And he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to remember.
That actually could be a problem for me, too.
He did pretty well, though. This is a much easier quiz. So, first of all, I prepared a fanfare for you. Let me pull that up.
Is that by Lowell Lieberman?
He's not sure.
Yeah. It's called Lose the Lieberman, that particular one. So that's your little fanfare. That gives you a clue that I have a tricky little soundboard here. I can play little
Oh,
clips
no.
of things, and
He has the power.
you'll see as we go along. But first of all, let me bring up our quiz music.
I know it's the wrong key.
Just wait.
Okay, quiz music. And pull that down while we talk. Okay, a few questions here. Where was Jennifer born? Was it Atlanta? Was it Brooklyn? Or was it Seymour, Tennessee? Anybody want to guess? Zach,
Seymour,
don't-
Tennessee.
Zach is over there looking
Yeah,
at Wikipedia.
Zach, come on. Turn that off.
I was guess. I'm sorry.
Not Seymour. One more guess.
I just associate Jennifer with Philadelphia, so I can't hazard a guess.
So Atlanta it is.
Oh wow.
Jennifer, where were you born?
Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
Wait, was that
Brooklyn,
one of
New
those
York.
choices?
Yes, that was.
Yes.
Aw.
You have to
My
listen.
accent, I was going to say my accent does not sound like I was born in Brooklyn, as
No,
people
it doesn't.
frequently point out.
I was
So I like to
springboarding
say
off of that.
it was southern Brooklyn. So
Southern Brooklyn. Perfect.
Did you live
Very
in the
good.
South at any point?
yes, I did. I did for basically 18 years. I lived in the South. I think my parents moved from Brooklyn right after I was born. So I had 10 years in Atlanta, 8 years in Seymour, and 6 months in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's a Tennessee
I think,
accent.
did we just kill some of your questions, Brad?
No. Nope. Here's the next one. What is Jennifer Higdon's middle name? Is it Elaine? Is it Elizabeth? Or is it Esmeralda?
Did you
Why
try
are
to
you
get?
laughing
Did you
at
get a
the last
spit
one?
take? Did you get a spit take?
He almost did.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Any guesses?
I'm going to go for Elaine.
Is that right, Jennifer?
That's correct.
Okay.
Are you changing it to Esmeralda after the quiz?
I am totally laughing. I'm trying not to laugh out loud.
Well, I did in the middle of a sip of coffee here, so that almost ended up on the table here.
That's okay. Next one. What is Jennifer's instrument? What does she play, or what is she known for playing?
She plays the flute.
Yeah. I figured you would know that one. Finally, somebody got one right. Oh, no, you got the middle name right.
Elaine worked.
Yeah. Elaine, not Alain, as in Alain Trudel. No. Okay. Now, conductor Robert Spano has recorded many of Jennifer's works. Where did they meet? Was it in Philadelphia? Was it in Atlanta?
Should
or
we
was
do this in
in
unison?
It was right here.
It was, well, not in the studio. 30 miles south, right?
Yeah.
30 miles south of the studio.
In
BG.
BGSU.
Bowling Green? Yeah, that's right. Because didn't you like crash a class of his, Jennifer?
Yeah, I went in. It was a graduate conducting class. I went in on the first day. I was an undergrad, and I figured, he's never going to let me sit in on this. But he said yes. So he was a fantastic teacher, and I suspect all of the people who go to Aspen now to study with him probably just love it. It was an amazing class.
Yeah. Well, lucky for him that he let you sit in on that class, huh? Because you guys have done a lot of work together.
We have. And, it's amazing to me that it actually kind of unfolded from my time at Bowling Green. I still remember his audition. I sat in on his audition for the position of conductor of the university orchestra.
Oh,
and I remember when I saw him, I thought, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He was young. He was like 23, I think.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
Did he have hair then?
He did have hair. He had a lot of hair then.
Just for folks who don't know, Robert Spano, longtime conductor, music director of the Atlanta Symphony, although he's stepping down, right?
He is, I think, in 2 years, maybe, I believe.
Yeah, but a wonderful legacy there of support for new music and living composers and modern music, so that's great. Now, next question. When Jennifer was at Bowling Green State University, she wrote her very first piece. It was for flute and piano. What was it called? Was it Night Creatures? Was it Bentley Roses? Or was it Song? Any guesses?
I mean, Judith Bentley was a professor there for a long time. Bentley Roses.
Oh, that was a good guess, though.
Yeah.
What was the first
Night
one?
Creatures.
Night Creatures. Good job, Merwin. Tell us about Night Creatures, Jennifer.
Oh, it's a little piece that's like 2 minutes long for flute and piano. And I remember I asked Mrs. Bentley when she told me I needed to write a little work. Harvey Solberger, who's a flute player, composer, was coming in to do a master class. And she said, I want you to write a little work for Harvey's master class. And I said, how do you do that? And she showed me how to do a 6-note row, not a 12-tone. 6
awesome.
notes. I think I wasn't advanced enough to do the 12-tone.
Yeah.
That's why it's only 2 minutes long. Otherwise, it'd be 4 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby steps. Where did that name come from, though?
I think it's because the music sounded a little spooky. And so I was thinking, because I love movies, I probably had seen a scary movie. I thought, maybe I could do something with that sort of feeling. And it's a good question about the title. I do wonder where that came from. Probably something that just floated into my head.
Well, I mean, and that was sort of like, precipitating the rest of your works, because you always come up with these interesting titles. And I know that you have a very artistic kind of imagination as well.
Right. Although we're saying that in the very piece that's being done in Toledo is the Concerto for Orchestra. And I remember the Philly Orchestra commissioned it.
Love the title.
I was going to say, some people were like, can't you come up with a more imaginative title? And
I also really love the movement titles. I think,
yes.
The number.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
I think I prefer to go
5, yes.
Also known as V.
Yeah, right.
I was agonized about that. I felt guilty about putting such an ordinary title with ordinary movement numbers.
I actually want to ask you about this, but I'll wait till after the quiz.
Okay. Well, let's do just a couple more questions here. Jennifer has won 2 Grammy Awards for Best Contemporary Classical Composition, both of them concertos. Which instruments were they for? Is it percussion and violin? Is it viola and percussion? Or is it flute and harp?
I think it's the violin one.
Yeah, because that was the Hahn recording.
Yeah, that was the Hahn recording.
That was the Pulitzer. I'm talking about the Grammys.
Oh.
You're just killing
Grammy,
me.
Pulitzer.
We have so many
awards to choose from.
Let's see.
I mean, how do you have room in your house, Jennifer? I mean, all of these beautiful statuettes.
I keep everything out of the studio so it's not staring at me.
It'd be really tough to, be, preparing dinner and to have your Grammy staring back at you.
That Pulitzer is like, I'd really like some company up here, Jennifer. What are you working on?
Oh, man.
No, it was her viola concerto and her concerto for percussion and orchestra that won Grammy Awards. But her harp concerto is up next month, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It's actually, I think, the 26th or 28th. It's up for a Grammy in the same category, Best Contemporary Composition.
Bravo on that.
Yeah.
Thank
Gorgeous
you.
piece.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. Do you go out to the Grammys then?
Sometimes I go out. This year I'm not because I'm doing a fundraiser for Opera Philadelphia that happens to be running at the exact same time.
Oh.
And in a really ironic twist, Yolanda Condonasis, who is a Ohio harpist, actually is the solo. She's also up for a Grammy, but she's playing the concerto at that exact same time in Kansas.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Strangely, yeah.
Well,
So
you know
neither
what?
one
If
of
you
us-
need a proxy, I'm happy to go.
Okay. Sounds good.
On
We'll send
behalf of
all four of you, actually.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we'll
Sounds
go
fun.
accept for
Let's
you.
go.
As somebody who's never been nominated for an award, how does this work, Jennifer? Do you get to identify a proxy to go for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never checked on that. I've been, I think, 2 times, 3 times or something like that. But it's a really good party. That's the thing. The trick
Yeah.
is getting out to it because it's in Los Angeles. So it's if you've got things going on, it's flying out across the country and then dashing back. So sometimes
Well,
it's a little bit of a problem.
If we start now, we might make it in time. After we're done with the
Leave
podcast
right
today,
away.
we'll go out there.
Really?
Well, best of luck for next month.
Thank
I hope
you.
that works
Thank
out.
you.
Now, here's the bonus question. Jennifer just had a birthday. Was that birthday on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day? Which of those is Jennifer's birthday?
I'm staring at Zach because he had most recent access to the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something you should know.
I did not observe that corner of the page.
Is the
I
top.
did when we
Is
were
that
just
the
talking
top?
about Ned Rorem, but not about Jennifer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, here's a clue.
New Year's.
I'd say New Year's Day then. Yeah. I'd say New Year's Eve then. A tax baby.
said
Jennifer,
Felicia
you're a
had it.
tax baby.
I was a tax baby. That's the first thing my parents said. You were a tax deduction.
Oh, wait a minute. I have never heard
my
of that
nephew.
before.
A
That's
tax baby.
brilliant.
Yeah.
A tax deduction.
I always
baby.
feel bad for those parents. They put in the newspaper, say, Toledo's first child of 2020.
like,
And
darn,
these
you
parents are
just
just
missed
looking exhausted, of course. And then they're also looking completely miserable because they just missed a deduction.
But
I
they're,
don't, some don't
right.
realize.
yeah, they're never like the last child of 2019.
Right.
Were you born? What time of day were you born? Do you know?
I was born literally the last couple of hours of really 1962. Rah.
In South Brooklyn. Yeah,
Yeah, in South Brooklyn.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have gotten out of there too.
nice. Well, we do want to spend some time talking about your concerto for orchestra, which is happening on this concert. This is such a fantastic piece. I mean, we were making jokes about, the title and the lack of movement titles, but the music itself is so inventive and so interesting. Can you just start by giving us a little background on the piece itself?
Yeah, this was part of a series of commissions that the Philadelphia Orchestra did for their centennial. They commissioned 7 composers, and I was the one unknown composer in the group. I think they felt like they needed to have a Philadelphia composer in the mix. And they actually asked me specifically for a concerto for orchestra because I'd been living in Philadelphia at that point for about 14 years. So I knew a lot of the musicians, and they figured I could write something that would really show off the orchestra, because that's the idea of a concerto for orchestra. It's not a soloist at the front of the stage. It's actually the entire ensemble. So ironically, I found out about this commission in 1998, and it was scheduled to be premiered in 2002. And I live not too far from the hall where the Philadelphia Orchestra plays. And in the intervening years, before I started writing this piece, I kept getting stopped by players in the orchestra who are asking me for solos. So I made a grocery list of the requests, and I figured, okay, one of these movements is going to have to accommodate all of these requests for each person's respective solo. So that's actually the middle movement, the third movement, which is kind of the heart of the concerto.
Did you turn anybody down? Was like, And were any of the players asking you for solos that you didn't accommodate?
You know what? One person said, I don't want any solos, and that person actually got a solo.
I love
Serves them right.
Right.
Yeah.
But, it was interesting to design it in a way, that middle movement, to design it in a way where I could actually have the principal players have a solo and also let their sections play along with them once they did their solo. I thought that was kind of an interesting way to show off the different aspects of an orchestra.
Well, you have this extended, the movement for percussion instruments that is so interesting and so inventive. Mm-hmm. The one thing that really strikes me about this concerto, and of course I hear it in a lot of your music, but you seem to have the audience really in mind when you're writing for them, because it's one thing to sit there and listen to a big old symphony that has tunes crop up time and again, or great, moments that crop up. But you have like entire movements that just catch the ear and hold on to it throughout the whole time. It's very entertaining, I have to say.
Yeah, that movement came out of the fact that the timpanist in Philly, Don Luzzi, actually came to me and said, I'd like to play in the percussion section. Most people don't know that a timpanist is not allowed to play percussion. They only sit at the timpani.
Is that a law, or is that
it's a union
in
rule.
Philadelphia? It is.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually went back to the orchestra administration and asked permission for Don to move over to the percussion section. And so I had to allow time for him to get over to the percussion section, then to be able to go back to the timpani. And that's what gave me the idea for doing the percussion movement. I love percussion, but I also thought of all the sections of the orchestra that has changed the most in the 20th century, it's actually the percussion section. They used to just be a cymbal and a bass drum. Then they added a snare drum. But now they play all kinds of instruments. And so there seemed like something that would be kind of cool to have one movement that just emphasized that aspect. It's also the quietest movement in the quietest spot really in the entire piece is the opening of that fourth movement, because the players are all bowing pitched percussion, bells and crotales. And so it was surprising that it came out okay. I was very relieved when I heard it.
Well, I mean, in some of your other works, you've experimented with percussion as well, especially the percussion concerto, which I've heard you call an encyclopedia, of percussion. Yeah. But also in the violin concerto, you've got people like playing knitting needles or something like that.
Right. They're using knitting needles. So I'm always thinking about color in orchestra pieces, because I always like a wide variety. I think it makes it a little more interesting for the audience. And, players now are so good. I mean, really, throughout an orchestra, the players are probably better than they've ever been in all of history. So I realized because of that, you can actually write a lot of solos and things that feature the individuals within an orchestra.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you play percussion like in your high school band or something like that?
I did. We had a band director who moved people around a lot when they needed people. And I had started out in the percussion, although I was like pretty small. I was not able to really carry much in terms of a drum in the marching band, but it was a lot of fun. I have no doubt, though, that probably wired my brain to be very aware of percussion.
Well, that's what I wondered, because not all composers really gravitate in that area. Percussion sort of seems like an afterthought for many of them.
Yes, you're right.
You seem to have honed in on it as a whole world of expression and color, especially.
It's a magic box with all kinds of toys in it.
That's a great way to say it.
Now, poor Merwin is sitting over there thinking about, but what about the string movement?
No, I'm just remembering when I had the last bow crotales myself, and I'm just, and it was a nightmare. And it's like, why can I bow in a violin so much more easily than playing crotales? It's like an entirely different thing. So thanks for reminding me of that, Brad.
Well, you know what? I was going to say all the principal second violinists who've ever done this piece have said to me, oh my gosh, what were you doing writing a solo for the principal second violin?
And we have enough accidental solos of our own.
I know. Well, this is actually a situation where that solo is harder than what the concertmaster plays. Yep. And it's because I knew the principal second in Philly. We'd gone to school together. So I couldn't leave out the principal second violin.
It sounds like you have so many personal touches infused in this concerto. Is that typical for you when it comes to writing a piece?
It actually is. I think a lot about the orchestra that's commissioning it, and I often know people inside the orchestra. I know my violin concerto that I wrote for Hilary Hahn, the concertmaster of Indianapolis, is Zach DePue, who grew up in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
And so that inspired me to write a lot of violin solos within the orchestra to play along with Hillary. So I'm often looking at the personnel of the commissioning group and figuring out a way to kind of tailor it to that respective group and often the individuals within the organization.
I know that your time is limited today. Does anybody else have anything
Well,
they
she
want
said it was a short opera, so she's fine. We're all good.
Yeah, you got to get back to writing that opera, so we can go collect your Grammy and. Right?
We have to go.
I love it.
Yeah,
That sounds kind of unreal. It really does.
yeah.
It's a fortunate position to be in. I just have one more question for you.
Sure.
The Concerto for Orchestra is such a special designation. Merwin and I have talked about this before. You're standing in a very small pool of concerti for orchestra and some really wonderful composers who have executed in that format. How does this piece inspire others to embrace this concerto for orchestra concept? And how did you look back at some of your forebears who have written concerti for orchestra?
Yeah, that's a great question because when I got this commission, I actually freaked out a little bit because I love the Bartók Concerto for Orchestra, and I also love the Lutoslawski Concerto for Orchestra, which I believe at the time I got the commission, that had just come out in a movie, was used, the Lutoslawski was. So believe it or not, I went through those scores once within the first week after knowing I had this concerto, and then I put them away. So I went 4 years without looking at them because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to step away and write my own piece. It was that terrifying because those pieces are kind of iconic, especially the Bartók is amazing. And so what's interesting, I have started to notice there are quite a few people who are starting to write in this genre. And it's nice because the players are so good with the orchestras that why not show them off? I mean, it's an incredible box of crayons and it's an incredible race car an orchestra is. And it can do so much as a unit together, but also as individual players and little chamber ensembles within the orchestra. So it's a lot of fun to write. Scary, but fun.
Fantastic. Well, Jennifer, we'll let you get back to the composing process today. Best of luck with that opera, and thank you so much for spending some time and talking with us today about this concerto for orchestra.
Oh, thank you. It was a real pleasure to talk with you all.
Okay,
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
It's not often that we get the composer to come on and talk about their music.
Yeah.
So
in the midst of other composition, which is amazing. I don't feel like I could turn off one side of my brain to go talk about a piece I wrote 20 years ago and then come back.
Well, I think that's one of the things about Jennifer Higdon that has helped to make her so popular is that she delivers, right? She's able to compartmentalize. She's able to do all of these different things at the same time and do it at a high level of quality. So that's, one of the earmarks of her career.
I remember the first time I had heard of Jennifer Higdon was that Hilary Hahn recording because it was a recording of the Tchaikovsky Concerto with Hilary Hahn and then this other composer named Jennifer Higdon. And Hilary had a great video online talking about her admiration for Jennifer and the colors that she creates and why it was so special to have a Higdon commission come her way.
Well, she was
and
a
she's
student
also
of
from
hers.
and another fellow Philadelphian. So the spark at that point was to check out this composer and figure out what else she had written. And at that point, she's written much more now, especially more recently, but it's just incredible to watch this career come together and literally unfold in front of us. I feel very chagrined that I forgot about her first opera, of course, which itself is just a remarkable work.
You talked about compartmentalizing and delivering. I remember just last August, we were performing a string quartet version of Her Amazing Grace, and one of her classmates, Bob Clemens, was in last-minute need of a cello part for that piece, and she got off the plane, sent a PDF copy of that part to us, and we were able to perform it off of an iPad.
Wow.
And so she will literally deliver that part.
Well, if you look at her social media, she follows all of her performances and announces them and supports them. So that's great as well. She's, a really 21st century composer, I think, for the masses.
That's great.
Let me ask you about this other piece that's on the program. It's completely different at first glance from the other stuff that's on there. It's by, is it Francesco Gemignani? Yeah.
So I think one of the things that's interesting, I think Toledo loves his Rachmaninoff, so I think it was certainly a wise marketing decision to center the marketing around the Rachmaninoff third. But this was really kind of in conception. The concert was an exploration of the idea of concerto. And the two principles behind a concerto, what differentiate one multi-movement orchestral work from another type of multi-movement orchestral work, the difference between concerto and symphony, is really kind of two concepts. For the concerto, it's contrast and virtuosity. And I think that with a solo concerto, which is what most people are kind of most typical with, most familiar with, you're talking about, a solo instrument being set apart from the rest of the orchestra, by because of how virtuoso its part is, and the Rachmaninoff third is the ideal of that. But the Gemignani Concerto Grosso and the Higdon Concerto for Orchestra are two different takes on the idea of contrast and virtuosity in this multi-movement form. And so with the Gemignani, you're taking a small group of players who are very similar in terms of color, but setting them just very slightly apart from the rest of the orchestral group. It's kind of the concerto in utero. It's like the kind of the beginnings of that. And then with the Higdon, you get kind of the full realization of what that means like 300 years later.
Wow. I totally get it now.
Yeah, I do.
Now I understand.
That's
that
why
makes
we
total
did it.
sense.
Yeah.
That's what the pre-concert talks are for,
Yeah,
right?
I was just thinking that's what exactly.
Yes, I just need to blow that up for half an hour.
Yeah. But no, you are giving a talk on this beforehand,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
What time do those start?
Those start at 7:00.
Okay.
7:00 to 7:30. I run and change and then play the concert at 8.
And you're very difficult solo.
Can't
Yeah.
you just wear the same
Yep.
thing?
I totally could. It's a
Okay.
solo, right?
Can
Yeah.
help you.
Beige suit. What could go wrong?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Do you want to talk about your solo at all? It is unique.
It is extraordinarily difficult. It
Do you,
is.
do you have to bow crotales or?
I do not have to
Okay.
dollars, but I think one of the things that's very interesting about the way she writes for the strings in general is there's often these fugal entrances. So one section will start, and then a few notes later, the next section will follow. And in a way, the second group has to jump on the moving train, as it were. So the first solo often is a little bit easier to play because in a way you're the person who gets to start the train. And then this often the second,
hop on.
yeah, it's a little more difficult to hop on, and the notes are moving very quickly all over the instrument, and it's a little exposed. It's going to be fun.
Great. Again, it's that idea like with the Rock 3 of walking the tightrope.
The element of danger, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's no fun unless somebody gets hurt. So hopefully,
Oh, yay!
This is not hockey.
yeah. Again, the concert is happening this weekend at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle, Friday and Saturday, January 17th and 18th, 8 o'clock p.m. More information at toledosymphony.com or 419-246-8000. Alain Trudel and the Toledo Symphony performing 3 concertos. We'll hear the Piano Concerto No. 3 of Sergei Rachmaninoff. The great pianist Olga Kern will be there. Also, Jennifer Higdon's Concerto for Orchestra that we've been talking about, and the Concerto Grosso No. 2, that's music of Francesco Gemignani. Again, ToledoSymphony.com. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. With generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation, you can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website, that's at wgte.org/lab, and you can subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Don't forget you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website, ToledoSymphony.com, and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Sue, also Felicia Canny. I'm Brad Cresswell, and this has been Toledo Symphony Lab on FM 91.